be around 10.
So you slept well and no shop.
So, is it possible that some people come to the first row? Es ist möglich, dass ein paar Leute in die erste Reihe kommen, dass wir die erste und zweite Reihe voll besetzt haben und sieht es dann auf den Kameras nicht so leer aus. Das wäre super.
Oh, that's good. I don't think I've missed it.
I guess I just need it. My body just. And now I'm waiting. So, the rest of the week is going to be just. Just when I get Friday evening, and I have Saturday, one day, and I leave the next day early in the morning to LA.
We are ready.
Okay, so can we start now?
Yes, I can start.
Thank you all for being here. It is my privilege to interview Benjamin Alire Saenz. I won't be introducing him because we only have 15 minutes, and I'm sure you do know who he is. So let me begin with the more mundane questions. I will try to avoid the top 3 questions that Emily mentioned yesterday, last night. So how long was your flight from Texas to Munich?
It was 9.5 hours.
Okay. So in that long flight, did you read a book?
I bought a book because I forgot to bring the book I wanted to read. I bought a book in Denver and promptly lost it. So I had nothing to read. I do have a manuscript that I need to work on. It's a poetry book that I'm working on. It's going to be out next year. But I was so tired that I watched half a movie and promptly fell asleep. So it was wonderful.
So what was the title of the book that you lost?
I don't remember, but it was something that looked really interesting because I read the first paragraph. I think I want this book.
Okay.
So I'm very forgetful and I lose everything. I do.
I think it's the curse of academics. Yeah. So your books mean so much to so many people, and I know a lot of people who claim that they are healing for them. What was that book for you when you were growing up? What was your Aristotle in Dante when you were a teenager?
I really didn't have a book like this when I was growing up at all. Nothing like it. And I remember when I finished writing the book, a friend of mine a very good friend of mine, read the book. And she said to me, Benjamin, you wrote a book as a gift to yourself. And I think that's true. But when I was writing it, I don't think I knew it. And I feel this way about the book. Young men and some young women write to me, and they tell me that I have made their lives easier and I've lightened their burdens because they don't feel like they're so alone. But the most moving letters I get are from men that are my age or older, and they read the book. And they all say, in their letters, they're all different, but they all share 2 things in common. They also always say these 2 things. One, I wish I had had a book like this when I was growing up. And they also say, you have helped heal the wounded boy that lives inside me. And that's very touching to me, because I know that literature has to matter. That I don't write because I want to entertain people. I want to write because I want to touch people. And I think that in writing a book, though even reading one is a solitary endeavor, and writing one certainly is a solitary endeavor, but in the reading of the book, we build community, and we discover that we are not alone, and that we truly do belong to each other. And that's really important, because it isn't just about literature and art. It's not just about that. that art and literature has to have a purpose. And I think that purpose for me is to try to connect with other people and share our common humanity.
I think it's this sense of meaning which also resonates with a lot of the readers. While a lot of people know that you are a professor, I think very few know that you were once an ordained Roman Catholic priest. And so I read up on you last night. So I was just wondering, as you were writing Aristotle and Dante, was there a lot of Catholic guilt going on? Was there a lot of self-flagellation happening?
I'm sure there was. I don't know, there's always a sense of, I grew up Catholic, and I grew up in a very kind of religious family. And I have a sense of what being Catholic means to me. And there's a lot of beautiful things in there. And there's a lot of things that are not so beautiful. It's both. And I do suffer from some guilt over all kinds of things. Also, I have this thing in me that always feels like I'm an imposter. There's this thing in psychological circles called the imposter syndrome, and that there are people in the world that always feel like they're imposters. And that comes from a sense of profound and chronic self-doubt that we're frauds, even though we're not. But we feel that way. So we don't feel as if we deserve good things in our lives because after all, we're just imposters. And I'm getting over that. I'm a good therapist.
Okay. I think now is a good time to also mention that I'm a clinical psychologist. Okay, so I won't try to psychoanalyze that. But in the interview conducted by School Library Journal with you, you mentioned that you are both Aristotle and Dante. I was about to ask you which type are you more? Are you Aristotle? Are you Dante? But you did say that you are both, which is kind of like cheating. But now let me ask you a different question then. So what are the secrets of the universe that you have discovered in your over 60 years of existence?
One of them is that we only experience the world through our bodies. The mind is part of the body. We forget that. The heart is part of the body, and the body. There really is no separation between mind and body, and the spiritual and the material. We make those divisions, but there are no divisions. They all exist. And we experience the world through our bodies, which is then to say, I experience the world as a man, and you experience the world as a woman. And that we have to embrace our bodies, and we have to embrace all of ourselves and make no separations there. And I also think that I've learned that it's very important to forgive, and most importantly to forgive yourself. And I think because that happens very slowly in life. And to embrace the universe, you have to embrace yourself, your own mind, your own heart, your own body. You have to embrace it and allow yourself to experience the world in all its awesome and awful beauty.
And you've spoken about violence and tenderness in your writing. I was just wondering, how do you navigate your way around that liminal space between violence and tenderness as you write?
Well, I think it's easy for me to embrace what seems to be oppositional thinking or oppositional living. There is violence and there is great tenderness in the world. And I live on a border that's straddled, literally on the border, where I live in a rich country right next to a very poor country, where I understand violence in all of its fullness. I think poverty is a great violence. And we don't see it that way, but it is. Because poverty is something that we can solve and refuse to solve. Because we are enamored of systems that say this is the way it's supposed to be. But we create economic systems. They're not natural and they're not organic. When we talk about free markets, we talk about them as if they're a blade of grass growing organically from the ground. That's not true. And I realize that we do this. And so I've always lived in liminal spaces that makes me want to have to understand the world. And I have to understand what violence is, and I have to understand that it's bigger than me. And I also have to understand that there has to be some acceptance on my part, on some level, that this is the way the world is. And if I think that I'm going to change it all by myself, then I'm going to be a miserable human being, because I'm not going to be able to do that. I can say, this is what I think, but I have to be able to love the world I live in. And that means that I have to accept, even if I don't like it, a lot of ugliness in it. I can't hate the world because there are terrorist attacks. I can't allow that. I have to always make space in my heart to be able to love. I have to do that because I only have one life. And I refuse to spend it living it in bitterness. I refuse to do that. I want to write beautiful books like Aristotle and Dante. I want to give young people hope. I want to tell them, look, yeah, it's a mean world out there, but really, really, there's a Dante out there. There are Dantes out there. There are parents, like people say, oh, these parents are too good to be true. That's not true. There are a lot of parents in this world who love their children, understand their children, and would do anything to help them be happy. There are also a lot of parents who don't do that. But there are parents like this. And I think that I want to write books to give young people hope. And if there's a generation behind me that has hope, maybe they can build a better world. Where we failed, maybe they can.
I think it takes an enormous amount of courage to have that kind of openness and vulnerability to everything around you. And as a professor, what do you find to be your most effective writing prompts so that you can nudge young people to write from a place of truth?
Well, I think that what I do in a classroom is I make students feel safe. I tell them this is a workshop, so this is a place where we are allowed to write failures. Fail. That's where you learn from. Don't have performance anxiety. Don't think you have to bring in something great. You're learning. Free yourself up to learn. Write a bad poem, but there's something beautiful in that bad poem, and we'll take it from there. It's okay. You're not supposed to know how to write already. That's why you're taking this class. So free yourself up to learn and write honestly about what you want to write about, and write about anything you want to write about. And I always tell them, when you write something, if it didn't hurt, it's not going to matter. Just remember that.
We only have 5 minutes left. So between Aristotle and Dante, and last night I sang to the monster, you described Ari and Dante as a sentimental book, while last night I sang to the monster, it's very raw. Which book took the most from you as a writer, as a person? Which exhausted you more?
Last night I sang to the monster. It exhausted me. Ari and Dante, because I already had the ending in my head, and I knew it was easier to write, because I knew it was going to have a lovely ending. So through Ari's pain, it was easy to write through it. I didn't have an ending for last night I sang to the monster. So I struggled with it. I struggled with, is that going to make it or not? And then it's so painful. What? Things that happened to Zach, that no boy should have to live through. And yet we know in this world it happens, and it happens far too often. We know this. We know that to be true.
So what song would you sing to your monster?
I would sing what's in the monster book. Summertime. Living is easy. I would, and also the song that I sing to my monsters is one of my favorite songs, and I think it's a beautiful song. And I have a terrible voice, but it's.
No, you have a beautiful voice. Go on, sing, please.
It's a song from the Beatles, from their last album when they were together, and it's called "The Long and Winding Road," and it's a beautiful song, and it's just about a journey that asks a friend to lead me to your door. And the long and winding road will never disappear. And it's about how through being alone, you always, when you sing a song, you sing it to yourself and always to someone else. That's why music is beautiful. It's never, you hear a song and you think, well, that song was written for me. It wasn't. But you feel that way. You just do. And that's terribly intimate. It's wonderful. It's, again, connection and community. And that's what... So we do have to sing to our monsters. Because our monsters will tear us apart. But when we sing to them, we tame them.
So we have 2 minutes. You also mentioned in one interview that love is in fact a riot in your heart. Can you tell us more about that? That's my last question.
Because, you see, the heart is always a safe place so long as you don't love. Because love, in all its forms, at one time or another, will be incredibly painful. And that love can be between a parent and a child, between a man and a woman, between a woman and a woman, between a man and a man, between your siblings, between friends. There comes a time in every relationship that matters when it will hurt. And you have to decide to keep loving, because love is not just an emotion. It is a commitment and it is a decision. So then you decide, yes, I decide that even though right now there is a riot in my heart, I know that I can overcome this and that we can go on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.